Okay.
Hey, Elizabeth.
Yeah.
It's Russ.
Yes.
When you as you jump into this, could you start, with the just like the absolute most basic thing of like signing into the
Yep.
system, show us how to create a story.
Yes, of course. Yeah, that I'm gonna go very basic in the beginning, and then we'll get into it in detail. So, um, but stop me anytime if you have some questions while we're talking about things. So the first thing, really, I'm just gonna get into this. I'm gonna go ahead and record this session. It's probably gonna take about an hour, hour and a half. I'm thinking more about an hour and a half. Um, but if we need to go in more time, I'm definitely here and available. So the first thing to log into the system to the town news blocks, you basically the easiest way to go there once you have a login, and we've created logins for mainly all the newsrooms or the ones that were provided to us. And if you don't have a login, just let us know and we'll do that for you. The simplest URL to remember to get access to the block system is admin.townnews.com. When you go there, it takes you to a login screen, and because I'm already logged in, it just takes me to the screen after you log in. And essentially, it's just the news and updates from Town News. They do a lot of press releases, products, things they're working on, tools that help improve their system, their CMS, but also giving us some digital advertising tutorials. So they do a bunch of things like. They've just acquired this new CMS platform, and I'm pretty excited to see what it looks like because it kind of mimics a little bit what a WordPress looks like, so something a bit different than what they're doing now. But this just gives you a bunch of videos, a lot of articles, then some software and service updates. It's really nothing that you have to be concerned of. Here in digital, we will look at this. We get daily releases, what's going on. If there's an issue, they'll let us know. You can't subscribe to them, any operational system operational things that are happening. They'll send you emails on, hey, we're having an issue with this. We're trying to figure it out. Just FYI. So this is their main screen. Um, so the first thing you want to do, ultimately, you guys will just work on Wenatchee, but you can have access to multiple sites. In my case, I have all of our sites on here, including Wenatchee, and you can see it's still on staging site. That's why it looks like this. But always make sure that you're on the Wenatchee site before you do anything. So I'll go ahead and click on that and change mine to Wenatchee here. So now I'm under Wenatchee, and I know I can make my edits here and I can find what I need to find. Sometimes I'm that person that I'm like, why can't I find it? Oh, it's because I'm not on the right site. So just, train yourself to always look at that first. You have a lot of login preferences, edit account information here. So under your login, you because of Total CMS, you can actually make some defaults on your workflows. So, and we can get into that a little bit later. But you can set default start time, which I don't really recommend default start time. This, you post whenever you have content, and you can schedule whenever, but you don't necessarily want a default start time. Um, you can. You can also have a default to always show your author, and that's something that you can automatically set to yes, and it recognizes you, and then it puts an author into the article. So you have some customization that you can do as a person uploading some content. So we can look at this further later on. So from here, to the left, you'll have the menu of all the tools. That is, from admin to manager to reporter, it depends on what things you have access to. Because I'm a super admin, I see all the things, but you might not see all these things, and that's okay. We try to give you the most primary things. The others you don't need to worry about. It's more system things that we'll handle here internally. And then just to, so you guys have this, I sent this your way, but help.bloxcms.com is everything it's the help center for town news. If you have, I mean, ultimately, it's easy just to come to us first and we can fix it for you. And that's what I always say. Hey, we're the middleman, and most of the time we'll figure it out before town news figures it out. So that's why we're here for you. So you don't have to waste and be waiting on things that we can handle for you. But help.bloxcms.com, there's Total CMS, there's Blox CMS, and ultimately now we are going to be on Blox Total CMS, which gives us the extra tool of printing, of pagination and printing tools. So we are digital first, but we're also scheduling and communicating with our paginators on what we want in the paper. Okay, so from here you can learn everything about Total CMS. There's a lot of links, a lot of information, like how to do assignments, what is a page tracker, etc., etc., and we can go through that later on. And then Blox CMS is everything that's web. We'll talk about mainly editorial today and the assets. We'll get into syndication, but everything else you don't really need to worry too much about. Under editorial asset is everything that you can do, any content, like if you want to upload a video content, YouTube content, it shows you how to do that, and we'll talk about that now. All right, so, and the other, okay, so we'll go back here. So on the left here, really what I want to get into is the editorial stuff here. Everything else we can wait for later. Under editorial assets is where you find all content that lives on the site. At times, this box will come up and say, hey, you have an article in draft. What do you want to do with it? You never saved it. So those are things that you can look at. It reminds you, like, okay, I did have this, but this was my test. I was working on something. I didn't save it. But in this case, I'm just going to cancel and get rid of it because I don't need it. So yes, cancel out of it. Nope. Do you want to say no? I'm going to get rid of it. So if by chance your computer shuts down, lightning, something, you don't have access anymore, that restore box will come up of your drafts. So it's kind of like InDesign sometimes when it turns off by itself, it knows how to restore. It's the same thing with Blox, which is it's a new feature they added this year, so it's handy. So here's everything you'll find content-wise on the site. There is a lot of columns here that you can sort by. If you don't see all these columns listed, you actually can go and click on any of the columns, and there's this little drop down, and you can sort by ascending, descending, or by columns. And I really would suggest you guys have your slugs on, your authors, your section, your priorities, and your statuses. Mainly everything except, delete time or workflow was probably really good too, because we'll be using that. So your depth of the article shows you that too. Once you do that, it's part of your list here. Now you can move things around. So if you oops, I just clicked on it, so it's ascending. I shouldn't have done that. Stop it. If you click and hold, you can move the columns around. So if you want to see title first, if you want to see authors first, you can move these things around. Once you set it once, it stays with you under your user. So you don't have to worry about making those customizations again. And then, there's your depth, there's your print, there's your priority. If you want to set a number priority, your status. Now I'll look at status here, because status means, hey, is it live on site? If there's nothing, if this is blank, it's live on site. This means that it's that the publish of the disable the publishing is on. Basically, it's do not publish is checked. So in this case, this will happen when you depending on what types of workflow you're assigning the articles, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But that's your indication of what's published or not published. You'll see your slugs here, and we'll talk about naming convention of that. Your sections, your authors, and you can see Mike, Riley, Tony have played with articles in here and kind of been doing some training in there, practicing. And then, basically everything is kind of it's understandable. But I'll put this workflow here so I can see that too. All right, so on the left here is your search terms. You can search by text. Think of it as Google search. You can put Anderson there, and probably this ad will come up. But don't go huge specific. I noticed that if you put like a whole title, and I don't understand this, it doesn't find it. So it's weird. Like I put a couple words, and then the article will pull up, or anything under that name will pull up. It's a little, I don't know. Sometimes the search is a bit wanky. Yeah.
Can you maybe can you start with showing us how to create a story, and then maybe show us how it shows up in these lists that you're showing?
Yeah. So.
Can we jump into that now?
Okay, sure. All right. So when you're in here, basically anything that you want to create on site is new asset. So you click on that, and there's your article if you're going to create an article. Image if you just have a photo. A collection is a gallery. If it's a photo, a collection of photos. You have more options if you have an audio file. File in general, like a link. We don't use Flash. HTML is there. I'm sorry. So file, and there's link. Excuse me. PDF, poll, table, video, YouTube, and zip file. Really, the main things we use are YouTube, PDF, HTML, audio for podcasting and things like that. You can use tables, and we'll go through some of those. The reason we use YouTube is because if we do an upload directly to Blox, Blox will eventually, or Town News will eventually start charging us bandwidth, because we just have so much through the month. So in your case, you guys are using Vevmo, so we'll do the same thing as use Vevmo instead of the video asset. We'll probably need to figure out, I was talking to Gary, that we might do a Vevmo player, so you don't have to worry about creating assets from here. You'll just simply upload in Vevmo, and it will show up on the site. But the basic thing to do, really, when you need that you guys are going to do, is create an article. So you click on an article, and you get this box. So now that, because we have the print tab, it will say web headline here. So you'll choose your title for the internet, for the web, your byline, and then I would strongly push for you guys to use authors, and we'll talk about why in a little bit. But to get an author up included on this article, actually, you just simply add user. And if you're not in here, you can just you would have to go to the user accounts, and we could show you that in a minute. But let's just say here's mine. I'm going to click on that, select user, and now I'm the author of this. I'm going to say Alessia Limo. Now, is your body here. You have your web date and time. This is not print. This is your web scheduling. Okay. Unfortunately for print, we go off slugs. There's no timestamp for print, but we communicate that by the slug here, and we'll go over that in a minute. So web date and time. There's your display priority. Your presentation, we'll talk that in a minute. But here's the meat of the article here. So the first thing we want to do, if you have an article in Microsoft Word, or you just need to paste it in here, please make sure that you just don't paste directly in here, that you use the plain text box by clicking here and then pasting here. And the reason we're doing that is because if you're using styles in Microsoft Word or any other software they're using to type this up, it will import the styles with it and overwrite the styles of the website. So to avoid that, click on the clipboard here, plain text, and I'm just going to get an article here. And basically I'll just use this information here. So you click on that, paste it in there, insert it, and now it lives here. If you want to do any type of styling, you can simply do that by right here. So you can do, right now it's just paragraphs, so normal text. But if somehow you have a headline, you can highlight what you want to be more primary, and it will do that. But let me see. There we go. There you go. So you can play with that. I mean, in here, you have your bold, you have your italics, your underline, so you can do some styling there. So inline note, we'll talk about that in a minute once we get into total CMS. Same thing here, this stuff. But you have the ability to do hyperlinks. So this is that button here. So if you highlight it, when you don't have anything highlighted, it does not work. So you have to have something highlighted, click on that, and basically get the destination, which I usually just copy from where my destination is, address-wise, paste it in there. And if it's outside your website, make sure you always select a new tab or window, because we always want them to be on our site or open a new tab so they never leave our site. So you could click on that, and it makes that in hyperlink. You honestly don't have to use left, center, right outline, because we're going to follow the styles of the website. The one thing you might use is the block quotes. So again, it just indents, and you can do that. So it indents it. You have numbers, bulletins. You can do that by, again, highlighting. Pretty simple. You can have insert horizontal lines, so if you want to just place in a horizontal line, you can do that. We don't really use page breaks. It's not necessary. If you page break, basically when you're on the live site, and it basically will give you a navigation at the end of the article. It says go to page 2 or page 3 if it's a long article. We don't really need page breaks. We want them to just keep reading and not have another action of going to another page to continue reading. You can, this is a table, so I would suggest doing tables under child assets instead of here, and we'll talk about that in a minute. If you have an embed of any type of embed, so YouTube embed and such things like that, you can do it here, insert the embed and place it in here. But again, the embed of videos or tables will do as child assets instead of directly here, because then they are independent from the article and can be used on other things and not just be living in this article only. And so we'll talk about child assets as tables and videos and such. There's some symbols here if you need some quotation, etc., units and things like that. The cool thing that I like that they implemented is Twitter post. So if you click on embedded Twitter content, I'll use, since I don't have Twitter connected here, you basically, I'll go to Herald here, Sierra Vista. And I'll just open one of these articles here, and we'll take it off as soon as I'll show you. So you can click on, give it a space, click on Twitter. And if you know the Twitter title or anything, or the post you're trying to find, or any types of mentions, if I say WIC newspapers, let's see what comes up. Or just say WIC. So I can get a bunch of a post that has the WIC in there. If you have particular posts, you can put the whole title in there and it'll pick it up. But you can simply click on it and it will embed it in there. And the cool thing in the article, it looks like a Twitter post. So that's an exciting thing that I like. We use that a lot with Best of Preps for Sierra Vista. When Alexis is at a game, she'll have a the embed, Twitter embed into the article, and while she's at the game posting, but people still reading the article and what's going on, they're both being informed and reading at the same time. And then if you want, if this is too small for you, you can click on this to make the bigger box. And then you can go back by decreasing it, restoring it. Questions so far? All right.
So do the styles that you put down on the web, how are they reflected in the print version of it?
So it will. Well, actually, that's a good question. I'd have to ask that because it should basically the paginators will go in here and pick this up, and the styles will follow the styles of what they have on their InDesign, not necessarily on your web. So, the character style, paragraph styles that the paginator already has for your paper, they will follow. It will follow that. But if they notice that you have some bulletins or some bold and underlines, that will also go through to InDesign. But that's maybe a question I have to ask Bethany on how they handle when styles are like that. If they dismiss it, or maybe even Stephanie, if they dismiss it and use the styles within InDesign, which they should, or follow this. So that's a question I'll put down and find out.
Can we get the byline to stay for like our names so that whenever time I click myself as the author, it will have the same byline and I don't have to fill it in every time?
Byline, no. But author, yes. We'll look at your authors and your bylines and what you can do through that. And this is not this. These are custom. They will never get auto filled in, unfortunately. But we'll look at authors in a minute after we go through this. So.
But can we make article templates that have a lot of these things preset and duplicate them?
I mean, you can, and then you simply just do not publish them, and then go find them, and copy and paste it, and then into a new article. But there's no actual template that you can. There's no template tab, I guess you can say.
Okay.
But ultimately, you can create a template article and just go to that article, and just copy and paste it into a new article. All right, so when we get to display priority, that's something on how we basically will assign things on the site. That's once we have our archives here, I am going to putting together a like an assignment screenshot of how do these ads come up here, what type of flags, or if you do, we hardly use display priority. It's mainly the latest news, and in this case with Riley and Russ the other day, we were talking about just using flags, and that's mainly what we use is flags. You can do the third option of display priority. So for example, if you have latest news that are featured flag, right? All these three are featured flag. The next step to that is create a display priority and say 1, 2, 3. So, for example, display priority number 1, number 2, and number 3. It's how it shows. But for example,
Oh, hold on. I'm gonna relate this just to what our current system is.
Okay.
So, in Blox, what a flag is that's a content set. Is what we currently use in Thelonious. So what will now be a content set is what they're calling a flag. And so, Alessia, if you scroll to the top of the homepage, where it says top news stories, or down a little bit, top news stories and latest news, just like you would on the homepage of our current website, those will be controlled in the same way where each one has a corresponding, this is a check on, check off, rather than just pulling it, assigning the asset, picking the story. Does that make sense? So what she's saying is that basically instead of ordering them like high to low like you currently do on content sets, that's replicated by numbers, so 1, 2, 3, instead of just listed top to bottom. Does that make sense? So that's what flags are. Is basically content sets. It's how you order the homepage and each subpage. All right.
Yeah. So And then again, once when the archive's in here, the other thing we were talking about is the sections within. So under your local news, if you want to have, you know, control over what story shows up within the section news, we'll give it a rule and say, hey, if there's a latest news story that is flagged top story, that will show up on the site, and then every other story will show up underneath. So again, we'll go into that once we're live and launched, or even on Tuesday when we're up there, we'll make those final decisions, and you guys will be aware of what flags are going to be used going forward. So going back to here, okay. So I'll skip print for now, and we'll look at the web information first, and then we'll get into print. So after you create your title byline, you have all this information here. You have your sections. You always need to have a section, because if not, it just flows on the website, and it might not hit your news section or your sports section or your obits section, things like that. So always make sure you have a section assigned to it. So it pulls this list, and basically for you to identify what section where you are. This is a bit long, but let me go into my Hero. It makes it a lot easier. What you'll notice is, because I'm a staging site, it's just a huge URL. But for example, if I go to news here, your section is the news section. So we have to crop that photo. Sports. In this case, they're using section /A SOCO active. So I know that if I want this story on this landing page, I'm going to push it to that section. And then again, for everything else, obituaries, same thing. It's under section obituaries. So for you guys, it will make more sense when it's live and it's a shorter URL. But what I am trying to do is follow the same sections of what you're using for your live site now. But, there's your deep dives, the news section that we added to the staging site. But for your news, here's your news section. But if you hover over or click on the add button, you say, yes, it's news, but it's also a local story. So I'm going to click on that. So it's in the news section as a whole, but more subsection of news and local.
And so this is also, again, since we won't have two different systems for assigning locally on the back end through a CMS and also administrating the website, that one thing will allow Russ to be able to search news local and see the things he needs to see to edit, but it will also determine where it ends up on the website.
Right.
So again, that's kind of a replacement of saying, of using the content set on the website for news local. You're just checking that box to determine where the story's going.
So, as we're updating the website, do we have to be constantly changing the flags in Blox in order to have the stories that we want on top of the website to be on top of the website? Is that how that works?
So yeah, so basically, and we'll go through these. The flag is right here. So mainly the only two flags, maybe three flags that we'll use is top story, your special report, your featured, and then alert. And the reason we do alert is breaking. So alert, breaking, special report, top story, and featured. Now, it's a lot of information and knowing which flag to do what. But that's why I will be putting together an actual sheet to show you the homepage and be like, hey, these 4 stories are the latest story that have a feature flag. And then subsections are this top story is flagged latest story within the section that is flagged top story. And then your special report is in here for if I go back to the site here, for sometimes you'll have a big presentation or a big story or just a special report that you want to do. This is not always going to show up. this is your main default articles, but this will show up if you want to present it and give it more priority to it as a special report. So that's how that flag is how this will work. On the breaking side, where's my breaking? Breaking, the way we do that is basically if you set a breaking, I will put, and I think Argus has a breaking story. Yeah. So it basically, if I put breaking, a box like this, similar to this, not exactly like this, will show up on the site, and the rules are set to be up for 12 hours from the date stamp of the web date stamp of the article. This way it gives it more priority to the article, and it also makes this block show. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I know it's kind of...
It's a lot of stuff.
There's two different things there. One is sections, one is flags.
Yeah.
In general, flags we only need for the absolute front page of WenatcheeWorld.com. Sections will basically control everything else.
Right.
On the home page, front page, there's really only 3 that you'll ever need. Again, those will be specified in that document. The rest of that, those 2 columns of options there, will basically do nothing.
Yeah.
What they do, they'll never be used. So flags for front page, sections for everything else.
So another thing that we do with Wick, with the other papers, if you set it to breaking, it will automatically push a newsletter to the people that have signed up for breaking stories. Okay, so we set that up as well, so you don't have to take the second action of going to manually send out a newsletter for breaking. So that will automatically happen when you put the breaking flag on. And with the app that we also will be launching, what we do is set an alert. So every time you check alert on an article, it will automatically push a notification to the app users on their phones. This way, again, you're not doing that second action of going going to create a push notification for app users or for breaking newsletters. So mandatory thing that you need to do to an article is your sections.
Quick question.
Yeah. Yes.
Can you pick more than one flag?
Oh yeah, definitely. So sometimes it's a breaking story that is in the top story of a subsection, and I also want to send it to the app. So yes. So, any other questions? Okay. So the other thing that we have under the tags tab is keywords. Keywords are mainly for searchability when it comes to Google, Yahoo, but also searchability within your website. If you don't have any keywords and you save the file, Town News automatically is set to pick keywords from the article that they feel is a confident search tool or search term, and will add it to the list. Yeah, if you can do that, or you can also, with that list, you can also add more. So now if I click, and it's funny because if I save it without with any keywords, the suggested is what shows up on here. So I'm going to cancel and go open to a new one for a minute. To a story here. Here we go. So going back to keywords, what it did, because I didn't have keywords, it went ahead and suggested from the content that is on here. But I can also go to suggested and be like, which is basically the same list, and you can see what they suggest, and you can manually choose what you want as keywords, and say add them. You can also click on add here to just add keywords, custom keywords. Don't put hashtags. Hashtags is something that we use more internally for rule purposes. So all those things are like story idea, things like that's things I've used internally to make articles come up where I want them. But for you guys, for the live site, it's simple where it's no hashtags. those keywords will show up. And if I'll just go to an article here, when you're in an article, they show up at the bottom of the article here. These are clickable. So when I said you search within the website, basically I clicked on economics, I believe I did. Yeah, economics. So it pulled all tags, all articles that have that tag included. Another way for a person to keep reading. But it's also good for Yahoo and Google and just search engine optimization for people to find us when they're on browsers.
We have a question.
Yeah.
Is there two questions? Is there a limited number of keywords you can attach to any article?
No.
And does it matter?
I'm sorry. No to the first question.
And does the order matter?
No. It doesn't matter. I mean, really, if you want the order change, you can. Like, you can go onto sections and move them around. Actually, never mind. I thought you can move them around. No, you can't. Interesting. It doesn't matter. No. I guess that's why they just didn't have that option to move things around. In sections, though, you have the ability to move sections around. So let me go to Wenatchee here. So if I click on these, I can move them around, right? And this is important because, I mean, what's your primary section of this article? You know, because what happens is the primary section is what shows on the thumbnail of the article, like community, courthouse, living well, things like that. Also, when we have we're going to have a metered paywall for you guys, no longer a hard paywall. So basically what we'll do is we'll have a complimentary 3 stories to a non-user, a non-subscriber, and which helps us for better, better optimization from social media. So if a person's not a subscriber, this gives them an enticement. Hey, I can read a story. Maybe I will subscribe. But what we do is also add a free section, or free access section, and that basically disables the paywall. In situations, sometimes you just want an article outside the paywall. We have the ability to do that, but the free access will have to be the first one on this list. Okay, if you want it free for everybody. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. All right, keywords. Geolocations, we won't get really into it. Maybe later, but we don't really use geolocation. Sites, we don't really use sites either. We'll just move on from that. So flags, keywords, and sections are your primary things to kind of go through for an article. Because of keywords being auto added now from Town News, you can dismiss it and not use keywords. But if you know that you have even if you want to put your name as a tag, a keyword, to get yourself more searchability for your name, do it. But again, this is what helps people come read and get that traffic if they don't know WenatcheeWorld.com. If we go under related, is where you place your images. Anything that's anything that you have that you want to embed in an article, images, tables, HTML, really any other assets that belongs to this article, you can do through here. So by clicking add, you have 2 options. If you know that you already have images in the system, you can go find them by find assets. If you're creating a brand new image, you simply click on image here. It will open a new image asset, which looks like this. You will title it and then upload the image. I'll just do that. Caption. Your byline, if you have photographers is just like authors. Put yourself in there. Byline, caption it. That is start and date time. Make sure it matches the time of the article, because if this is later, it won't show up on this article until the date stamp of the image. We don't have to really worry about slugs in an image, but you notice it puts the title of the slug there. Again, we'll talk about slugs in a minute, but slugs are mainly for articles. Tags, you can, if an image is attached to an article, you don't really need to worry about sections or keywords, because honestly, you want them to come to this article to see this image. Okay. So really, on the image side, all you have to worry about is title, the image, caption it. Auto sales. We'll talk about auto sales in another time, not necessary right now. But really, if you have this information, you don't have to worry about section keywords, flags, unless, like, for example, galleries. It's a whole different story. If we have a gallery section, we want to make sure that we assign it to the gallery section so it shows up there. But if an image is attached to an article, you don't have to worry about adding it. Okay. And then basically I have this information for the image. I'm going to save and close, and what happens is it shows up on my list that is now attached to this article. I can do the same thing by, if I have, when I was talking about not really doing embedding of tables and things here, but do it here. If you have an HTML, for example, you have a YouTube video that you want to see, like Game of Thrones, yeah. You can share, click get the embed, pick that up. Push the HTML in there, name it, always give it a name. Description, byline, author, same stuff. If you have a preview image that you want to give this, because ultimately we want to give it on the preview of on the thumbnail. So when you're on the home pages or the section pages, these are thumbnails. You want to give it some prominence and give it that image. Or a preview. You can do that by uploading the image here. Again, I'll just add something. Sure. Do that, and then again, you don't have to add sections or tag because it's attached to this article. Make sure start date time follows the article time. Save and close, and now that's on here. There's other options like PDFs, tables, and we'll look at tables for a minute. If you can create, basically add columns. So how many columns you want 3 columns. Yes, okay, add rows, how many rows, and you keep going. So you can add a table simply within here instead of it's kind of like Excel. So and you can remove. So they've actually made it a lot simpler than it was. So tables through there. Now on the, okay, wants me a title, so I'm just going to say without closing. Cancel. No. On the print side, just remember that any child asset that you have as a PDF, a table, or an image will be transferred to the print product, okay? So if you don't want those transferred to the print, make sure that when you're in here that you simply say, and we'll look at workflow, but workflow, it's a web only, it's a web only product, sent to web, fine. No, I want it on, and we'll talk about workflow. But if you don't want this content to be pushed to paginators, make sure the workflow says web only. This way it doesn't get pushed to them. Alright, so let's see. Now from here, child assets, once you have some in here, and basically you can go find assets too by clicking that. you know, you have these batch of art images that you want to add, and you have a bunch of things here. The first image always is the preview of the article. But what you can also do is add these within the story. By holding and clicking, you can actually add the images within the story. Even the HTML that we added here, can add that in there. So, you know, it looks better when there's images within the story. It reads better. But if you don't have any images in here, on the live site, it will simply have a slideshow above the article with all your assets added. Questions so far?
I think we're good.
Cool. So, sibling assets. If you have any other any articles that have been related to this, like if you have a developed story, and this is your second or third story, you can actually attach other articles to this, and when they will show up either. Well, you wouldn't actually have to rewrite it, but you just simply go find it. Like, oh yeah, it's the same development story about this. By breaking, it's basically you can create a whole bunch of articles under this main article that has some relation to it. But again, for print product, all the assets that will transfer is under child assets. If you don't want them, make sure you say web only. Okay, and siblings will not transfer either. This is more web.
Hey, Alessia.
Yeah.
I want to design the website a little bit more. You can pull from child assets and pull the images into the text file and kind of organize where they appear in the story.
Yeah, so you can, you can highlight it and like move it around. So.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you can do whatever. And then what I did basically, I put my icon in there and
Alessia.
yeah.
One more for you.
Yeah.
So would a sidebar be a child asset or a sibling asset?
A sidebar? So sidebars, we can do under content. There's some things that you can do with sidebars. So if you click on content, there's bio box, correction, did you know, editors know. There's a bunch of different styles. And when we were looking at this article, I think one of these articles, actually this one maybe. Yeah, all this stuff, these sidebars, are created with within that content page or tab here. So let me go to this article because it'll be easier to see what they've done. Yeah, so sometimes I'll just do some of the writing there. Okay, there it is. Content, so they did a more information. So in like basically if it gives a different style, a bit of different design elements if you choose one from the other. But again, you have the same tools as you do the primary story. But and then let's see what they did. More coverage, get in touch. So you can play around. Once you find the tools that you're comfortable and you know what they look like, you'll start just using those more. But it makes it a more prominent like division and just having subsections and things, subsections and things like that. More to the article gives it I don't know, the more elements you put of an article, the more interesting it looks to me. So again, I keep pushing our editorial team to make the articles look enticing and not just using the same traditional, here's the article, here's the slideshow of the images. So alright, so you do that with content. You can also, there's also pull quote, you might use that. So you can do that through here. um, if a story has comments and we're using Blox comments, in this case I think we are going to use Blox comments instead of desk is what you're using now. Is that this anyway? If there's any comments here that you don't like, you can approve and deny them. Also, if you feel that this is a very just a very sensitive story, you under the other tab you can say to not allow user comments on here by just clicking on that. Under other tab, you can do that.
Alicia, I think our preference is going to be to continue to let our comments be on the Facebook postings of stories.
Okay, so
rather than having comments both in the having to moderate comments in a couple different places.
Okay, so because WickY we do use Facebook comments. So I'll do that. We can do the same with you, which essentially. I guess is not, but most of our sites are using Facebook comments. So I'll make sure I'll put a note on that. All right. Okay. So under related, we covered child, sibling, comments. Really, but not in this case, it doesn't matter. We don't have to worry about that. But content. So content, sibling, and child assets is your main things to worry about that belong to this article. And then the last tab is other. We have we'll talk about do not publish in a minute, but essentially that just doesn't publish online, but that works with workflows that we set up. So we'll go over workflows. Disallow reactions. So we've added basically another interactive way for a user to interact with the story, kind of like a social, like a Facebook. These are the reactions. So, you love, the funny, the wow, the sad, and angry. So those are what the disallow reactions is. So if you don't want those on there, you can disable that. Again, what we tend to do is take them away from any type of obituary and opinion. So things like that. So source, we don't really have to deal with that. If you want to archive a story, so if you don't want to show it live anymore, you can archive it. By default, these are always are blank, so we don't really archive or delete anything. I don't really necessarily think you guys need to either. I don't know if you do that now, but honestly, we just want as much content to live on the site for people to search. So finding a story from 5 years ago, we want them to find that story and come to our site. Source application, don't worry about it, something you don't use. Some of the things under the other contact that you might want to use is subhead, kicker, and hammer. So if I'll go to a live story under Herald here. Let's go to my local. I want to make sure I'm using a live story and not a do not publish story. This means that their paginators are working on it, so InDesign, but let me go to an article here. Okay. All right. Ready for publish. So I'm going to live view this. So if you click on preview or view, you can preview, and the preview will be like the staging site. So you'll have the gray boxes. It just looks, it's not the full site. Not everything is basically, the preview doesn't look very nice. So if the site is live, just go ahead and live preview it, and it shows you what it looks like. So when we talk about the subheads, let me go back here. The subhead, the kicker, and hammer. Those are printer terms, but for example, I'm going to say my subhead to this is Good Morning, Blast from the Past, former President Nixon died 25 years ago. Wow, 25 years. Hammer, maybe I'll put this here, and just to show you what it looks like. Maybe this here. But If you hover over the title itself, it gives you an explanation of what it does. So kicker, 1 or 2 word identifier to provide informal classification of the article. Subhead, typically displayed below the headline. Hammer, 3 words or less used to attract attention to a major article. So if I do that, and I'm going to save without closing, and I'm going to show you, so right now this is just a basic, but if I refresh it, it kind of shows you what you can do to an article. So that was, I always get them confused. Okay, so this is the hammer. There's your kicker. There's your title. There's your subhead. So you can put a little emphasis on articles and make them a bit different. Especially if you're working with featured stories. Featured stories, to me, I think should be a bit different than your default title, your default article views. So you can do that by using kicker, subhead, and hammer. So, and I will probably take these off. So, and save without closing. All right. So going back to Wenatchee here. You have notifiers. So Town News basically went from broadcasting to notifier, which essentially you can upload to Facebook and Twitter automatically, and it will follow the date stamp. Now, what Town News has been, what's been annoying is that because they switched to this notifier, our Facebook right now is still not going through and failing. So the option right now is only is using Twitter. So you can click on, let's say I wanted to go to the main Herald site. Top Stories is for your app. So you can say, I also want to push the notification. Instead of flagging it, you can also just use this, and it will schedule to push to the app notifier, to the users of the app. But they're still working, unfortunately, they're still working on Facebook, and I've been head-to-head and talking to Town News, and they can't figure out what went wrong, what's going on. So that's quite annoying, but for now you can use Twitter, and you can say safe send, and you can get a more custom message, or basically will give you the first sentence of the article. There's your title, and when you want to send it out, you can schedule ahead, or or if you're not ready to send it, you can save it as a draft. So this allows you to push it to Twitter, eventually Facebook, and to the apps. So you can save and send. It will send it. I'm going to close so it does not do that. Questions on notifier for now?
Nope.
Cool. And then location. If you have a map that you want to add to this article, you can do that by adding the address, or if there's no address, a latitude, longitude. We'll get the Google map API to go onto the Blox site too, so you can have that feature. So again, another element to an article to make it more special. So workflow we'll talk in a minute. Custom properties, we don't really deal with custom properties, so don't worry about that. And then revisions. So you can see who's been on this article, what people have done, what changes. You can actually, if I go to a live article here and go to the revisions, all right, I see that Tim was the initial person that uploaded this, and then I've been in here twice now. But if you can actually, I think it's a total of 10 views that you can see. So yeah, if you want to see what Tim has done prior or before somebody else made the edit, you can simply click on that, double click on it, and it will show you, bring up the same article asset. But a lot of times I use this to to troubleshoot workflow and see, all right, so Tim came in here, he uploaded this, and his workflow was print web to second edit. All right, so if somebody else, for some reason it was already in ready mode, I need to figure out who made that switch. You can go back in history and figure out who made those switches. you can't really make edits to historical article assets, but you can look at them or create a new asset if you choose from it. But those are your revisions. A lot of times I look at this now too for paginators and see who were on here, and for you guys too, so you know who you should communicate to, who's working on your pages. All right, questions on the web at CMS here?
Can you show us what the map looks like if you pop that in the story?
So I don't. We don't have the Google API set up yet, unfortunately. So I can't show you that right now, and I'm not sure who is using it, who has one up. But I'll make a note to that and make sure I show you once we go live.
Other question?
But it's basically what we use Google Maps, so it will be a Google Map embed basically. Go ahead. Question?
I think that's all we got.
Oh, okay. Oh, I thought I heard I have a question. So, all right. Okay, so so that's basically your article asset. Before we get into that print, I'm going to go ahead and save. Do not save. Yes, no. So if you have, sometimes if you want to do some batch uploading, you can. So for example, these, if you have like 10 stories, if you do a new asset and photo, you have to do one at a time. But if you say new asset, a batch upload, you can, and it's mainly images. It's not articles, unfortunately, which is annoying. But any type of image that you want to auto upload, you can highlight them, click open, and they will load. Make sure though that the file name is what you want it. Like in this case, I would give it titles instead of this slug, which it looks like a slug, but or just conventional naming. But if you don't want to do the double work of going into each one of them and renaming them appropriately, do that on the file first and then upload them so they show up more like this. All right. When you're in here as well, if you want to make some batch edits, you can highlight the list and you can say batch edit. If you have articles or images or things that you maybe forgot to add yourself to as an author, you can do that. If you feel that all these articles or images or such, or in this case images they would be, you want to add a new section to them, you can simply do that and add that, and it will, if it has a section, it will list the section, but you can also add more to it. You do the same thing with flags. Again, we don't worry about geolocation sites. Miscellaneous, we don't really worry about that unless all of them are set to the same slug. Or set here your workflow. If you know that these all need to be a specific workflow, you can do that as a batch upload or batch change. Presentation, we'll talk about that. We'll probably talk about that Tuesday since, yeah, so we'll have a session on presentation modes, more deeper development on the site. So, all right, so mainly the top four here are always the new creatives, and then new assets and things like that. Batch upload, import, I really don't use import, but syndication, and that's something we'll have, you guys will have access to, and I'll go to the Herald here. Syndication, because we're part of Town News IQ, it's also basically we have access to national stories outside our paper. So you can click on the menu here, go to syndication, and this is Sarah Vista, but for example, if you have AP channel that you work with, we can automatically set the channel to show, so you can see the articles that are being pushed in. You have we don't have on the national side, we automatically set them to go live on site. But for AP and things like that, if you want more control, these are not uploaded on the site. These are manual uploads. So if you have a story in here that you want to share, you can double click on it. You can, right now it's under the AP National section, but you can simply, I would never say add as link, always say add a site, so it falls within, it doesn't take you away to go to the AP website, it stays within our website to show the article. But on the syndication side, it pulls the automatic keywords, but if you want to add more keywords, you can. And there's the flag again. So flag keywords in your sections. If you want to add more sections, you can do that. On the left, what we have done internally is giving you permission to view all these channels, all the WIC properties. So if you want to see what Wasilla Alaska is publishing and you want to use some of this, go for it. So double click on that and just add it to your site. Section, keywords, flags. Now the keywords are carried from when Wasilla pulled them in. As you can see though, that they actually shared, it is a Wasilla story, but they shared from the IQ program. I can tell by the byline. So, but again, keywords, sections, and flags are your main three things. And this shows you the child assets, the images that are coming with it. So again, add to site, never add as a link. But if you go back to editorial assets, under new asset, and under from syndication, it will basically bring up the same screen and do exactly what I was just doing, is finding the articles from here. So we no longer have North Carolina, so we'll take that away. But you can see the other properties and such. Questions on syndication? Okay, so one thing I want to mention about syndication, because we have national news coming through from newspapers, I'm going to show you where you'll find copyright restrictions if there is any. So I'll click on all the nationals here and show you how that looks. So, okay, so of course there's one. Basically, it will show as a key on the preview here if it has copyrights to it. So wow, that's interesting that it has no maybe. All right, it will, on the status, usually it will show a key, and if it has a key, it means that it has copyright restrictions. There we go. So this one has restrictions on its use. You can double click on this and you can see what type of restrictions. Under other tab again, under usage restrictions is where you can see what you can do with it. Okay, so this is our WIC paper. So really, honestly, anything all the papers under WIC, you can do whatever you want to it. But for in this case, like what we added to Argus Observer for other national papers is embargo delay. So basically, we are the ones that are going to have access to the story first, and about, I forget the rule, but it could be an hour, 2 hours after, can somebody have the ability to share to another site. In this case, re-syndicate to asset to other sites, locally duplicate or export the asset. So sometimes it will say web-only publication, but in this case where it says locally duplicate or export the asset, you can put in your paper basically. So these become like a filler if you want, but always make sure those copyrights, that you look at those copyrights. For us guys, Riley, Russ, we need to figure out our copyrights for your stories, and I'll send you my form that I put together, so you can decide how you want those, or if you want stories shared and what rules we should set on them. So it'll make more sense when we have give you the form.
And are you thinking just for in shared through the town news platform, or does this get fed to other CMS as well?
No, just Town News CMS. So any advertiser or any customer that's using Town News CMS basically could have access to your content unless we put those copyrights to restrict things.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
yeah,
vice versa. So I'll make sure.
Just that comment. We'll chat about it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So so it's 5:30. Should we keep going to talk about Total CMS, or should we keep that for Tuesday? Because it's a lot of information.
Let's keep that, because I think that's going to be a smaller group that will need to know that.
Okay.
Specifically, not everybody deals with the transition from CMS to page, so.
Okay, so because the workflows and things like that and the slugs, that's something a smaller group or?
Well, so we're keeping the same workflows.
Yes.
Actually, just note that. So first read, second read, third is going to be exactly the same, and should function exactly the same, labeled exactly the same. Slugs, Alessia, if you want to,
Yeah.
we can just shoot an email out with when we send out those one-sheeters.
Yeah.
And those other things, and just note what the slug is there, because having it, I think, written down would be better anyway than saying it audibly. So,
Yeah, so we'll talk about that more on Tuesday. But Russ, just FYI, here are your your workflows. We added photos and pages for other things, but I also added a letters to the editors workflow. It needs verification, no verification, verified, sent to web, placed to publish. So your workflows basically is how you assign things to the article and how it gets to print and how it gets to web. And so we're using the same workflows: the rim, the hold, the second, the first edit. When you send to web workflow, it will automatically. So basically, from here up, all these do not published on the status side. But when you go to send to web, it knows it will push it to the web depending on the date stamp that you put on the article asset, and then send to print, placed to publish, placed, published, sent to print. And this is where the paginator says, oh, it's ready for me to use. Okay.
Yes, send web is the same as send live, send to web, go live now. That same thing on the more info. That's that same thing. You just set it to an additional workflow.
Rim tells me it's ready to go print.
Yes.
Well, let's tweak that a little bit.
We'll tweak that a little
Yeah, these would be probably things that need to be tweaked. But within an article, like just something I'll go over quickly here. But I'm sending this the basis. I sent it to Russ and Riley. This is Total CMS plus things that we just covered, just what all the little icons mean. But the printing assets, it talks about what all these do. So on the print tab here, really this is the ready for print can be controlled by your workflow. So when I said send to web and then the publish, print or publish, that will automatically be checked when the print is supposed to go to publish. Okay, so you don't really have to worry about that. The workflows are under the other tab, under workflow, and then whatever you need to do here. Now, whenever you initially start an article and you're saving it, it gives you don't necessarily have to go to workflow. You can prompt to, okay, well, here's my story. I'm going to prompt it to first edit, so it's there. And now, if it doesn't need a first edit for some reason, you can just push it to send to web, place to publish, and do what you need to do. Which I think what I need to do is when I say place to publish, I also need to say web and print. But anyway, we'll talk about that. But those are your workflows. On the print here, there is on the sheet that I sent out to you guys, there is the slug convention that we use, and that is on this page. Where did I put it? it's 10 pages. I was trying. It was the actual user guide is like 200 and some pages, so pretty good to make it to 10 pages. Where's my slugs? So, all right, basic Blox. So I think I put it at the last page. Where?
Yeah, sounds good, Alexia.
Yeah, interesting. Why doesn't Sorry, I was under. I think where are my
Yeah,
slugs?
well,
Interesting.
because what I'm going to do is I'm going to put together an email for everybody that has the full manual, this manual, and those one-pagers.
Yeah.
And we'll include that in the note with the slug, just so it's all in one spot.
Yeah. So basically on the slug side, just the convention is year first, then month, then day. Everything is lowercase always. It's case sensitive, so lowercase everything. Dash, then your section, and dash, and then your description. In this case, put test, but for example, on going back to the Herald here, they put sports. It's a Brewers. It's a jump page. They went on and on and on. Or I'm looking at national stories here. All right. So, and we need to get better at slugs, but for example here, and we're still working on slugs because that's totally not the right convention. Well, it's because I'm looking at national stories. So I'm sorry about that. Here we go. Year, month, day, news, and make. When in an article itself, make sure that you follow the dash sections dash description. On the photo, I would give it the same slug, but what you can do is add to it. But it does not become part of the slug, but it's just it's like, in this case, they're using it as a priority. Be like, okay guys, the slug of the article is this, but I'm going to put a space because this is the second picture to the article. And there's your first picture, and there's your third picture. But if I look at this slug, search for this slug under here, and they might not have an article here. Let me see. Alright, so it looks like they didn't actually have an article under that name, but here's one. So there's the article slug, and there's your image that's the same slug, but they didn't add additions to it. But you can add additions to it if within an image, if you, for example, if you need for priorities on what picture goes first and second and third. Just again on the slug side, we do have wildcats, what they're called wildcats. So for example, and it's part of this total basics here. If you're searching, you know that you want to search everything that's under this day. You can simply put an asterisk on it, and it will pull everything for March 24th, 2019. This helps the paginators too understand like how much content do I have. So this is an easier way to get a bigger list of things. Now you can push this and say, I want everything that's under that date under the news section, wildcat. I can do the same, and now everything that is assigned to that date and section will show up on the site. Down here is where you navigate from page to page. The list will show you 25 total, but you can go page to page to show you the rest. It will show you how many assets you have total, 26 in this case. So that gives you some numbers down here. You have the ability to change your view. So if you don't like this view and you want to see maybe image view, you can click by doing that by show summary. And it kind of gives you the image, you see what the image looks like. It basically brings up the first sentence or so. Better visibility. All right, so I think I'm gonna stop there. I know it's a lot of information, but the basics is where I wanted to go over with you today.
Yeah.
Any questions at all?
I don't see any hands. I think we're good.
Cool. So one last thing, if you guys are on the go, you do have ability to upload content through your mobile site. So I believe, let me find it here, Blox Mobile. Here, so, all right. So basically, let me go to this one and be easier. Okay. So when you log into the mobile site, you use the same login, just go to admin.townnews.com. It will automatically push to the mobile version. You can go to the desktop version to show you this, but really on the mobile, it's not very friendly to view and to do things to. So they came up with Blox Go Mobile. So if you are out and seen, there's a breaking news, you want to get something up, you go to admin.townnews.com onto your phone. It will pull up the mobile site. You'll log in, and you have the ability to write an article, upload media, search your articles, but write an article. It's breaking news. It will bring this up. It's the simple start time, section, keywords, flags, your slug if you want to add it, or add it after when you get into the office. But if you need something to be pushed out right away, you can do that on scene. And then the next is to, write your article, and then you simply upload it. So something it's pretty simple once you look at it, but it's the main tools on the go. So
Alrighty.
All right, guys. So I'm gonna put I haven't put a plan together of sessions and things like that. Ian and I spoke about it today. We know what we're gonna do. I just have to put it on an email and send it to everybody, and kind of go from there. So I'm hoping to get that done for you tomorrow. So it gives you a heads up on what we're going to talk about. And if there's anything else that I missed that we want to talk about, let me know. So a lot of information, but again, pretty excited to come up and hang with you guys. So let me know if you have any questions, but other than that, I'll let you go for tonight.
Alrighty.
All right.
We appreciate it. Thanks, Bless you.
Of course. Have a good one, guys.
Alright, you as well.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.